Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to start tearing apart that floor and we're going to see how this boat is built. Here's how it sits now. You can see it's just a wood deck, and we started to remove the deck in the back. I'll climb up here and show you. Now, we couldn't find anything on the internet about this boat, so we had no idea what we were going to find when we tore the deck off. Pretty good sized gas tank. The problem we did run into is right back here, we found some soft spots. Now that's just a bulkhead, and I'm not even sure how it's made, so we're going to have to do some exploratory cuts into it and see what we have. Okay, you can see this is the hole that we found right here. From what we can see here, it's maybe an inch and a half down, and there's foam. So we're going to go ahead and cut into this and see what it looks like. Well, looks like there's about a 3/8 inch piece of plywood in here, and then foam. Dry foam, which is good. What happened here was, with the construction technique that they used, they actually screwed into all of the beams, bulkheads, and they never sealed the top of it. The only thing that, if you remember, the only thing that was on top of this was carpet. Carpet does not make a good sealer. Now across the back, you can actually see, I can get this thing to turn a little bit. There's still a stud. Well, it's not actually a stud, that is the top of a lag bolt. And when they put the walls on, they just used it was probably at the time a galvanized lag bolt. These lag bolts, as you can see, this rusted, and when we went to take it off, it just broke. So it broke just above the floor. The problem with these is this works as a wick, and that will bring water in, and you can almost see right in here, there's a spot where that lag bolt had gone into. So that's what actually caused this rot here, and I can feel it probably comes back to here. So hopefully it's just this section, but we're gonna have to get in here and do a little more cutting. So we'll try to cut back here. This is just a bedding compound that they used when they laid the plywood on. I'll tell you the truth, the plywood really wasn't stuck very well. Okay, we can see a little bit better what we have here. I mean, the plywood really isn't even rotted. It's just that there's some room in here. Bring this over so you can take a look. And you can see that dust on this camera. This is the only spot that was rotted, is right here. And it almost seems like this was just laid in there. And the way it was held, it was probably stuck against the fiberglass at one point. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to figure out how big this cavity is, because it stops right here. But we'll check this to see how the condition of this is. You can see here's a hole. These were the screws were. I had done some test drills here, and this actually didn't seem like it was too terribly bad. But if this is all it is, then we may just cut this whole piece back and replace this whole piece in here. Because we don't want to have to take this apart for a long time. Now in these pictures here, you can see the rot that we had. This is really the only rot that we found in the back portion of the boat. Now this is the last bulkhead of the boat. The next thing back is the transom. So this is the spot where, as the water would have settled in the boat, would have remained wet the longest. You know, you think about how many times you see somebody with their boat on the trailer, put it in the driveway, they always put the nose up. This way all the water runs to the back. So this is the back where all that water would have run. And where all this rot is, there was big, 3/8" lag screws. So this water just whipped itself down, and it really did a job, not only on this side, but a little bit over here. Now you can actually see here where the part near the cross member wasn't rotted at all. And I can only attribute that to is this boat must have always sat on a little bit of an angle that allowed the water to just run off to that back corner. Because that's really the only spot that we seen the heavy rot. On the other side, there was just a few spots that we had to take care of. The cross member was almost perfect, but that's it. So we're pretty happy. The stringers, I guess you'd call them, because there's no stringer system in this boat. It's really just a series of bulkheads that run parallel or perpendicular, and all of the other bulkheads really were pretty clean. There was only screws through them, and around some of those screws there was a little bit of dark wood. Nothing I would really say was extensive rot or anything. I mean, for the age of the boat, it was pretty amazing as to the condition that this thing was in.
Yeah, we had to go ahead and grind all the putty off the top of these bulkheads because we wanted to see if there was any rot below them. Fortunately, there really wasn't. The next thing we did is we turned our attention toward this gas tank. Now, this ended up being a 50-gallon fuel tank that was in there. It was original to the boat. It was plastic. And you can see in these pictures how it was a little concave. So it had started to deform. You know, we were going this far. This is when you start to get into those might as wells. We might as well replace the fuel tank. So the fuel tank had to come out. We were trying to leave that cross member in at this point, and we figured we would just pull that tank out and slide the new tank in. What we found is that we couldn't slide this tank out. So we ended up actually cutting it up. And we did cut it with hand tools, so that was a lot of fun. But I was going to take the chance of cutting this thing up with power tools and just the spark from the brushes igniting something, and would have made a mess. But once we had gotten that tank out, we started to do a little more research on the tank. That manufacturer was out of business. We could not get another tank. I couldn't even find another tank really that was comparable. And I didn't want one that was comparable because, like I said, that was a 50-gallon tank. I didn't need 50 gallons of fuel in that boat. That's not the kind of boat that you need for long range. It's mostly going to be little day charters and stuff where I can get fuel if I need it. So I was looking for something 25 to 30 gallons, and we did find something, and we ordered that in. But since we had to wait for that tank to come in, that was really the end of that portion. So we got the tank out. We gave that whole area a good bath with the power washer, which was satisfying in itself just because it was so grungy, and we were able to really get it pretty clean. So the next thing we did is we turned our attention onto the bilge pumps. There was 2 bilge pumps in this boat, one for each side. They both had their own outlets, one on each side. So we went ahead and we replaced those hoses. Here's that part. This is one of the problems with hose clamps, is even if you get a stainless steel hose clamp, this little nut here is not going to be stainless steel. Now in this one, we were able to get a wrench onto this head, but everything else inside was stripped out. So we had to get in here and cut this out. Now the one problem that we had here was that's where it's located. Okay, so this thing is literally, it's underneath where those sockets are. We got to get it through here. So we're talking about all the way in there is where we had to get this out of. So to cut this, we did some high-tech stuff here. We got a GoPro session. This is probably my favorite GoPro. This one, if you look down in here, you might be able to just barely see. There's the light. So what we did is we dropped the GoPro in this way. Okay, so we could see it. And then using our phone, which you're probably not going to be able to see very well, because it's the screen, terrible glare. But using our phone, we're able to actually see what that GoPro is saying. That is how we cut that hose clamp off. Part of the problem with that, because you're not really looking at it, is we did cut into it a little bit. Now we didn't actually cut all the way through, but just the fact that we heated it up, you can see how the plastic melted inside. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to replace this fitting. It's not a big deal. It was barely bedded in with some silicone and popped right out. So we'll go ahead and we'll pick up 2 of these. We'll put 1 on each side so they match. And yeah, I really have a love-hate relationship with GoPros. That little session, it's a session 4, I believe, GoPro. It's a great little camera for what it's meant to do. The nice thing about it is I can squeeze it into little places. And this was a perfect example of being able to actually see what I was doing without being able to see what I was doing. There's no way I could have done that by myself without that camera. I mean, I could have had somebody peeping through the other side with a flashlight and telling me go left, right, high, low, but it really worked out well with that camera. The reason I say my love-hate relationship with GoPros is a lot of the footage that I had recorded during this period was lost on my other GoPro. I have multiple GoPros, and we lost quite a bit of footage, including the next thing we wanted to do. You know, we got the back part of the floor off. We figured out how this thing was constructed. We got those bilge lines out, and we still had the motor on the back. So we wanted to take that motor off because the transom had been replaced at one point. When they replaced it, they didn't totally finish the fiberglass. So we wanted to go ahead and finish that glass. So we needed to go ahead and take that motor off. This is an example of one of the many pictures that we took. And it was really good that we took as many pictures as we did, because the lost footage that we lost out of the GoPro, we're still able to tell our story. But this was a picture of the wiring on the motor before we took the wires off. Now, the only wires we took off were the wires that we needed to take off to separate the motor from the boat. The wires disconnected. We needed a way to lift the motor off the boat. This ring right here is a lift ring. It screws into the top of the crankshaft at the flywheel, and that will actually support the entire motor. Then what we did is we used a engine hoist like you would use to pull any motor out of a car, and we were able to pick that thing up and remove it off the back of the boat. Next thing we did is we set it on this engine rack that we built. Wasn't sure if it was going to work or not. I had no plans for it. I just went ahead and I said, yeah, I think I need to do this and this and this. We put it on casters so we can wheel this motor around. That motor's been wheeled all over the garage. We haven't run it on there yet, but it does hold it. It holds it well. We haven't had any problems with it as of yet. So that's where we're at right now. We got this. We know what we need to buy. So we need to get some marine plywood. We need to go ahead and get some of our resin. We're going to use a polyvinyl ester resin on this. So we need to get some mat, need to get some resin. That's where we're going to leave this episode. And next episode, we're going to collect all of our stuff and we're going to start getting ready to put this thing back together. See you then. Thanks.